Hello and welcome to this video. Now we're going to talk about the classes which campaign, early monoliths, and then the leveling part of monoliths. Now, campaign, you can generally get through campaign by like level 30, 32. All these classes can do it in 2.5 hours or 3.5 hours without much issue. But there are few masteries I would recommend you not do. Only until you're like level 75, 85, convert into them, depending on your gear and everything. They are Necro and Lich. The passives are quite important for those two. Void Knight, it's not impossible, but it's easier to level with the other two masteries. Druid, I wouldn't recommend up until 50 plus minimum that you do like a Beastmaster style. And the Mage, it's pretty much mana sort of thing, but Spellblade is the easiest to level up with, but you can use the Mage a little more than other with any of the masteries. The Rogue, I wouldn't recommend the Falconist as a leveling, and Marksman would be second to Blade Dancer. Now, in saying that, you can do it, and as you can see over here, I've recently leveled all the characters in solo self-found. I did level as a Falconer. You can go Blade Dancer or the other one. The Falconer, pretty much you don't need to, but getting the Falcon is like a little extra damage thing that you can do, bit of tick damage, and then you can go further into it. Blade Dancer is probably the better one to go, and then Marksman, but as you can see, Falcon is fine. It's out of the three, it's maybe the hardest to just full commit into the Falcon part, but obviously it is possible. Now, in the campaign, let's just assume that you got drops and all that. So our resistances are okay. Our weapon is usable, because obviously campaign you're not going to get some giga weapon. We'll start with the Sentinel. Sentinel starts fairly strong with the Hammer Throw. Hammer Throw is a very, very, very good early weapon to use, skill to use, because it can get range and it can go through enemies and on its comeback. So it is very strong early. The only problem is there's like a in-between part where you're probably over, the area you're doing is well over what you level-wise are. So defensively, it's not as good as others. I'm going to put it in a B tier for campaign. This doesn't mean it's terrible or anything. It just, out of the other ranks, it's a B tier. The Rogue. Now, the Rogue is strong with Acid Flask, which you can spec into and run for quite a long time, even if you're going to switch to something like Umbral Blades. And the evade and all that is actually quite strong in Last Epoch, as far as not taking huge amounts of damage. If you just stand there and try to tank something that's going to hit you with a massive hit, obviously it's not going to play so well. But it's A, for ability to get through the campaign without requiring all the gear upgrades, The skills pretty much work within the passive tree a lot, and early on you are doing huge amounts of damage for how low a level you can be. The Acolyte, there's two parts to the Acolyte. Now, Warlock I recommend you go into, but we don't get that until after Act 2. Up until then, I recommend you run Skeletal Mages and a Golem to do your damage. You're running a two-handed weapon. I use Harvest, the Reaper skill sort of thing, not the Lich Reaper, the like Scythe type skill that you get early on to do damage on top of my minions doing the damage. You can go other skills. It's virtually you stand alive whilst your minions do extra damage. The Rip Blood is very good survivability. It's getting a buff as well, so it's even going to be better for you. After Act 2, it is, I recommend you go the Warlock. You get the Fissure, you get the Chaos Bolts. It suddenly, and the Curse type stuff. It suddenly turns into a virtual, everything is getting damaged or dying around you whilst you are not having to worry about it. And on bosses, you do the Fissure, you do the Bolts, and you're doing massive amount of damage. So after Act 2, it is A. It's a B, C before Act 2. And like during Act 2, up to Act 2, after Act 2, it is certainly an A. If survivability comes online a little later, else it would be an S. The Mage. Now the Mage is weird. It's got so much survivability just inbuilt into early. It's quite strong that way. The damage isn't as good as the other ones. It's good enough, but obviously if you had all damage and all survivability, it would be a little too strong. So the balance is obviously there. You're more than likely 60-70% of the time going to get to early monoliths without dying, or maybe dying once, depending on drops. And you might just run into some situation that is just bad for you. So it's actually an S tier because you can actually get through the campaign more times than not without dying. Primalist. Now, the Primalist is one of those that's a bit in between. It pretty much, in my opinion, is the weakest of the leveling, but that doesn't mean it's terrible. It's got one of the best movement skills in Leap, but it's still quite slow as far as getting through, because obviously you need to be able to leap somewhere with being able to do it. It's a B to C in the campaign. It's perfectly fine doing the campaign and all that. All these are good at doing the campaign. But as far as getting through the campaign as versus some of these others, it's about a B. This next one will go from level 35 to 50. Now, you get to monoliths around the 30 to 35 mark. You then go into the early monoliths, which are level 58. So you're quite under leveled. So this is basing it off your ability to get to that level 50 without hitting so many walls. Now, the Mage, it's an S tier for survivability in the campaign, because the campaign isn't all that demanding early on, especially up until you get into monoliths. There are parts past 5, 6, 7 that can start getting a bit more demanding. It actually slips down to an A because it doesn't really come online until level 50. Obviously, if you get good drops and everything, and the enchanted weapon versus the mana strike is working for you, it's echo dependent whether it's good or not. But it's really a skill that class that comes online after level 50. The Primalist, unfortunately, is staying a B because it needs to come online later. You are getting stronger, but very much if you get an Exalted Moonstaff, that's like level 50 use. Once you hit that level 50 and you switch into that Exalted Staff, you will see night and day difference between the Primalist in the level 35 to 50 and 50 plus. It really needs that next tier stuff to start doing awesome. Once you get there, you can just go through echoes. The Acolyte. Now, like I said, I recommend the Warlock with the fissure and all that. Its defensive stuff comes really online once you hit level 35 plus. But its survivability to actually just go through the echoes, and even the content that is a little harder, it's got the ability to take it out gradually while still surviving. It's actually a S tier, in my opinion. The survivability is just better than the Mage. The Mage gets its survivability later, but in my opinion, the Acolyte gets its defensive layers first. The Rogue. Now the Rogue, as I said, you can play all three classes and they'll do fine. I recommend Umbral Blades because it's quite powerful and you can do certain things. If you play a rogue style, like a hit and move and you're constantly moving around, then this is a tier 35 to 50. For the most part, once you hit level 35, you don't have to worry about any skills or anything. You're just leveling. You can pick whatever you want. I tried all different kinds of things and it was just extra. I like this doing over that. Like the explosive trap, you could turn them into a freeze trap for elites and champions and stuff to slow them down and just be able to survive more. Like, I tried a bunch of different things and it was just extra. The overall damage and stuff, you were just getting gradually more powerful without needing to upgrade your weapons every echo or anything. It was just overall a very good experience. Now, the Sentinel, I don't recommend you play Void Knight until at least level 50, maybe even 75. But the Forge Guard and the Paladin is very much weapon based, sort of increasing damage and all that, and a bit like the Primalist. Once you hit that level 50, you'll see night and day difference, but it's a solid B. But because it's got more variety in what you can do, I'm going to put it A, but it's like a B plus, A minus. It's up to you which one you put it in, or you just stick it on the line. But in my opinion, it's middle AB, but we'll put it A for its diversity. Now this one is 50 plus, and overall experience and leveling and all that. So once you reach 50, unless you completely rewipe your skills and everything, you're pretty much going to run these skills until you hit 75, 85. But I recommend you don't actually progress in your monoliths. Like, kill the boss once, get the blessing, but stay in the monolith until you reach level 200 corruption. It will make it easier to do the rest of the echoes at a higher corruption level, because you can take it along. But I do recommend you stay in the original echo monolith until you hit 200 corruption, and once you get whatever blessing you want, you don't have to do the boss until level 200 corruption. Just keep doing echoes. Now the Primalist from 50 onwards is very nice to play. If you play the Werebear and do like storms all around you and all that, and you pretty much like end up screen clearing quite easily, and the upgrades are less important from 50 on. You're just trying to find better without needing better, if that makes sense. So I'm going to put it A just because it's fun. You can clear echoes and you can end up like full screen clearing with the Primalist quite easy. And then once you get enough passives, if you haven't already, you can try the Beastmasters and all that sort of builds, and you'll have all the gear because this guy is quite capable of getting it. Now 50 plus for the Acolyte, where we're still using the Warlock. You could swap over to Necro or Lich at this point, but I wouldn't recommend it unless you've found gear and you know where you're going in the passive tree, because you probably will have to respec, because you'll want to use a lot more of the Lich nodes or the Necro nodes over the Warlock nodes. So do keep in mind you'll probably have to respec the character to actually change into one of the others. Now, the Acolyte defensively just is all there. The ward is very strong, and my research and everything, ward's going to be slightly different to get sort of in stages. It seems like some of the things on the tree might actually change to instead of just straight 100% conversion, you put a couple of points into it to get the conversion. Obviously that's just going off everything I've seen pre, it all about what happens in, but they haven't said anything about changing ward. Ward's still going to be strong, and the Acolyte with the Warlock doing the fissures, doing the chaos bolts, all that is super strong and defensive and can be fun, depends on whether you like the playstyle or not. Now the Mage from 50 onwards, its defensive stuff starts coming online even more. You've got enough skills in the points in the skills, and it changes from struggling sometimes to rarely struggling. So it's back on S tier up here. There's a little lull here, and then we're back on S tier. The Rogue, it's a solid A. because the one thing with the rogue is there is a limitation to where you can go. Obviously there is the ability to get to that point, but it takes certain build styles, certain play styles, certain everything. It's a solid A across the board. If you're looking for just a solid character across the board, play the Acolyte or the Rogue, and you've got it across the board. You shouldn't struggle all that much. If you struggle, it's probably mechanics that you're struggling with, and once you learn the mechanics or anything like that, then you'll be fine. It's not necessarily, oh, I don't have this upgrade, so I can't do this. It's usually the mechanics, or you just run into something that kills you. Now, level 50 onwards for the Sentinel, it can be an S, but it might just be my opinion on it, but I think it's a solid A. It is online. Defensively, it starts coming all together with the Forge Guard or the Paladin. The Void Knight, you could probably start switching into and start doing that sort of stuff. But I think across the board, we're not talking we're just focusing on one thing like a boss destroyer or something. This is getting us to like 200 corruption, doing all our echoes, getting all our blessings. This isn't pinpoint content. Like, all these characters will get you empowered monoliths. But I think the Sentinel requires a lot more investment in certain areas, so it requires drops. If you have the drops, it's S tier. If you don't have the drops, it's A. Look at it that way. Whereas if you got the drops, it's A. If you don't have drops, it's A. Primalist, same thing. It can go S tier if you get the drops, get the uniques. The unique that turns his fur white and everything. All the different sort of stuff. This can be an S towards the end of leveling, but it's a solid A. Whereas Sentinel, I think it's a solid A. If you have the drops, it can be an S. Not it will. Just my opinion. It might be how I look at certain builds with the Sentinel. But yeah, overall, I would recommend you play either a Rogue or an Acolyte. If you're playing solo self-found, you're obviously stuck with whatever you want to play as endgame. The ones I wouldn't recommend, if you just want to try out different things and you don't have an end thing to think of, I wouldn't recommend you play Void Knight or Primalist as your first. Play it as your second. If you're solo self-found and you want to be a boss destroyer, you have to go Sentinel pretty much. It's still going to be super powerful. The Primalist is fun. Even though it's a B campaigner and B early on in monoliths, it is fun once you get it going. And if you're just after fun, go Primalist. It is fun. The Mage can be a bit boring, but it's strong. So boring and strong. The Rogue, just all round, you're going to be able to do stuff. The Acolyte, it's solid, you'll get there. It's more, do you want to be a Necro or a Lich or a Chaos Fissure Bolt firing? If so, it's solid. and it can be fun. It depends on playstyle. So this is my list: the campaign, 35 to 50, 50 plus, and overall. Let me know what you think. Obviously, this is my opinion from playing so much and recently going through and trying different things in solo self-found. So obviously the experience and tiers are obviously mine. So if you have a different experience or a different opinion on something based on your playing, then you obviously might tier them different. But yeah, all of them can get through. All of them can do everything. I recommend either Rogue or Acolyte for you to start as your first character if you're not playing solo self-found. Totally up to you. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video. I hope you enjoyed. Goodbye.